and of course, my esteemed residents of Nairobi. Chair, I'll give a brief background. First of all, you've asked about documents. The documentation is, I presume, the same that we had given before, that is with you. I'll not make any reference to anything else, apart from just history, which I know of. These are estates, thank you. Thank you for the water. That we have known, we have lived in, we have relatives who are part of this residence. And so this is something that is very important to all of us as the people of Nairobi. Chairman, the 5 estates that I mentioned are part of many more estates that Nairobi County Government owns and intends to improve through our urban regeneration and urban renewal program. These estates were built right from the 1930s. If you look at Ziwani Estate, Ziwani Estate started, the blueprint was in 1939, and it was the lead architect and consultant there was one G. Fletcher. It was one of the first African decent housing settlements in the city. Before that, Africans were staying in squalor and in really terrible conditions, as has become the case now in many parts of the city and many of our urban areas. Jericho is also one that is historic from the 1950s. It's an estate that has produced a lot of Kenyan heroes. The first person to raise our flag, hoist it on Mount Kenya, Kisoi Munyao. We've had Napunyi, the boxer. We've had Barack Obama Sr. and many of these people, you know, who lived there. And you'll find the remnants of their history, because the nature of these estates, and the residents will tell you, is that a lot of these houses are passed on through the family. So you'll find a child, an uncle, leaves it to a nephew, and that is the case as it is in all of them. Woodley, and I can see my friend representing Woodley here, was started by Sir Richard Woodley, who was a councillor, or rather named after Sir Richard Woodley. Again, in the 1940s, that one housed more of our senior staff of the city council. It was a bit more affluent. You know, the kind of houses you had there have more space and more land. There were initially 300 tenants at Woodley, which is why the development we're doing, phase 1, is called 300 Woodley. And I can go on and on about all of those. Jericho, of course, you know, is named after a prominent Kenyan politician who was assassinated, Ambrose Ofafa, during the clamor of independence, you know. And Mbotela was also murdered at the same space at Bama, which was later torched. The idea at that time was to create conflict between communities and to make the Western communities, that is Luyas and Luos, blame the Mau Mau for those murders. And so as I close that, at that time, a lot of work went on. Jaramogi Oginga Odinga, together with Tomboya, would go around Makongeni and these estates preaching peace, telling people don't react, don't respond, and we go to our independence. Now, the urban renewal program that we have, its essence is, first of all, in line with the intention, the original intention of these estates was to provide housing to Nairobians. Our population has, of course, gone up. These estates won't fill the population gap, definitely, but it'll reduce pressure in many of these areas. And the example I can give is Woodley, where the first phase of 43 units are giving way to 1,975 units. You know, there are 1,975 families who will be able to have a decent house and an apartment with all the amenities that come together with it. They're all at different stages of development. In Woodley, we were able to bring down the houses, and the site has been secured. The residents had gone to court opposing. And I understand when you live somewhere for so long, you're sentimentally attached to that place. You know, in fact, you consider yourself an owner. Yet the courts agreed with the county that the county is the landlord, is the owner. And so long as the plan has gone through the proper process, the county can redevelop these estates. Now, the difference between urban renewal or regeneration, as it were, with affordable housing is in a number of things. Number one, the affordable housing being done by the national government is based on a statute. And in that statute, there's a levy, which all of us are paying. Everybody on our payroll is paying a housing levy. And so from your contributions, the housing fund has billions through which they're building these houses. It is to meet a social, low-income need that there is. That is not the intention of ours. Number one, we're not drawing from housing fund for our main urban renewal houses, apart from the one lot that I explained last week of Bahati, where national government has approached us asking, if the land then will be available once we've done the decanting, that they can be able to put up units. And we've said we're treating it just like how we're treating all the other joint ventures, that even as they do that, the county shall get its share of houses. The county will get its share of houses. We're the first county to negotiate that, actually. Others have a different negotiation. I sat down with the PS to make sure that we get our right. Because remember, I have also a huge component of county staff. We now have 19,000 members of staff in Nairobi County under my administration, who we also want to provide for decent housing, as it were. I made a promise when I was a senator of Nairobi, and as I campaigned, knowing for a fact that the model where people who've been living in these houses are then told that go and you'll come back and have the first priority to pay rent until you own it was unfair. I feel it's unfair, and I felt it's unfair. Because by very nature of the relationships these people have with the original tenants, there are very few, and they'll tell you there are very few that have changed hands. That card stays in the family. I say that we shall acknowledge the tenancy within our records, and once the houses are completed, they will get the house for free. And it is really not for free, because then if you consider it a back mortgage, what they've been paying, all these years, then it is a recognition and it's goodwill of the contribution that these tenants have had. I still stick to that position. We passed it in our cabinet, in the county government, and that's the position that we hold. That every family that has a card that is in our register, because a card is, you don't just hold it, it reflects with our records, will get their house. They will get a house. They will have ownership. They will not be renting. They will not be paying the county rent. The only thing that they might have to pay then is service charge, because you must service these places for garbage collection, cleaning, etc. That is the only amount that they will then have to pay at that point. Remember, there will also be other tenants who come in who had never been part of this history, who have never lived there, but who will be paying rent or will have bought these houses. So there's some which will be bought, some which will be rented, and then some which, of course, will have those who had been there. That is a stark difference between urban regeneration and social housing. It is because if you look at social housing, the reason they need a fund is many of the areas where these houses are being done may not be economically viable or attractive to the private sector. But our estates are very attractive to the private sector, which is why, if you look at the tender we did, they were falling over each other, to come and bid for those slots. Because they have seen that commercially, they can be able to build, relinquish the units owed to the county, and make a profit. Because they have an imperative of profit, they're businessmen. They're not doing it because they love Kenya. They have a profit imperative. And that is why, all of them have structured their financing to be able to reflect that. Now, we've told them that they must do certain things. Number one, there are certain areas where historically, and I took through my lawyers and urban, planning and housing team through the history of all these estates. You will not demolish Jaramogi Oginga Odinga's house. You will not. We want you to retain that or something to show as a museum. This is where Jaramogi Oginga Odinga was staying. You will not go to Shauri Moyo and take down the house where Tomboya used to stay in when police would barge into his house, during the time of the Kapenguria 6 and find him with Julius Nyerere and with a small